Intro. It's so funny because I literally wrote this content down the other night, and I keep looking back at my notes, and this whole podcast is not really what I wrote down about. But I think there's a lot of valid points with the content that I was actually supposed to be, talking about. But I also think that there's a lot of valid points in this, this podcast that we're talking about too. So when we go around telling everyone our story, right? We think it's the most special story that there is because it's our story. And yes, we are special people, so continue to think that, but don't tell, or you don't have to use your story in order to manipulate people or to fashion them towards your side of the river, right? Because that's your side. Nobody else belongs on your side of the river. Nobody else belongs in your lane. Nobody else belongs, wearing your clothes. Or then, you're energetically fashioning your world instead of working through your imperfections, exploring them immensely, and creating something beautiful from them, and from your imperfections, from the things that you have experienced in the world. How can I use this in order to create this into a beautiful talent, a beautiful situation that will help others, So I think that's what I think. And besides, you don't really want to go around telling everyone your story because it lets people into a very, very vulnerable space in your life. And I know from experience that everyone is dealing with their own imperfections of space, of holding space, and of working through their own junk, that people will just pick up the pieces that they want to hear, and they may even use it against you one day. And really, I'm thinking as I'm talking, and really, that's yours to work through. I'm a firm believer in information. Knowledge is power, and a lot of vulnerable spaces in your life don't need to be shared with everyone. And you also don't have to use your story in order to make excuses about bad behavior. And again, this is the Strip Down to Love podcast. I don't want to use bad or good. The type of behavior that I'm talking about is the behavior that hurts others. Whether it's being gossip, it's judging others. And no, I'm not perfect. I just came back from a trip, and Wait, hold on. Let me get G Money. He wants to come back. And so I just came back from a trip, and it probably wasn't long enough, because this is going back to telling you that I'm not perfect. I'm learning along the way just as you are learning. So, you know, I'm not sitting here trying to make like I know everything and anything, because I don't. But these are just the little things that I picked up along the way. So I was judging everything and, being a little bit of ungrateful. And so we're in our particular areas of life because of our choices. And I know I've talked about this many, many times. I kind of beelined off of the subject. So also what I'm saying is that you don't have to share every vulnerability, and we naturally don't, with a person, but it is also intertwined into our stories that we continuously share with people, right? We tell them, oh, I did that because I'm this way, or I don't want to do this because of this and this happening. Certain things, And sometimes by not letting go of that story, we don't open up other lines of opportunity. We're holding on to that, right? We're holding on and leaving room, and it's taking up space within our energy solar system. And do you mind me snoring? And by holding on to it, we don't create new opportunities. We don't create an open space for better energy to come in and to provide us opportunities of where we actually want to be. And so, additionally, if we are continuously sharing our story with others, we are allowing their energy into our story, which could make or break your situation. Imagine you're right there. You just have one more thread to let go of with that story, energetically wise speaking, right? And for some reason you meet a new friend, co-worker, and you're like, well, I'll just share my story with them. Then because you shared it, it attaches. Then you have to do more work in order to try and release it again, right? And you may even be working to help these people or that person to get rid of some of their story too, because when it attaches back to you, it took energy to do that, right? And you gave that story power. Maybe our stories are hindering us from, they can only stay for a little while. And then after that, it starts creating situations where we just start living the story and we start finding things that second our story, fifth our story, and solidifies it into our body. But we're here to grow. We're here to go through phases of life. And it's not society's phases of life, like, 20s, 30s, 40s, things like that. I think that here, compared to the universe, we are here on Earth for a finite amount of time. Tiny amount of time. And yes, you are growing at your own pace, spiritually, emotionally, energetically, physically, Physically is totally a different subject. And so we're here to explore, and you are your own person that you're taking, that you decided to come here with. And we want to be able to explore our talents, pick up new talents, and pick up new fun and love the world that we create through our heart's desires. I was thinking, maybe so our story is engineered in order to create our perspective about the world, our perspective about certain people. And our perspective, to a lot of the point, keeps us safe, right? That's what we think. Our perspective keeps us safe. That's why I'm going to stay in this perspection box that I have created, and it's going to keep me safe, and I'm just going to be doing the same thing over and over and over through this perspective. But sometimes you have to ask the universe, can I broaden my perspective? And sometimes I'm like, no, please don't. Because I have been thrown down a hill, ran over, and went through so much pain within this past 6 months of my life. I don't need a broader perspective. Well, then at that point, that just means that you have to go back and, probably work on the imperfections, right, that were provided to you by this episode of pain, that were gifted to you through this episode of pain. If you think you can't take anymore, try to look in the toolbox or the filing cabinet of all the things that you have picked up throughout this episode of pain, and see how you can go through them so that you can let some go, have the ability to bring in new energy, and keep some with you to take on your next journey. Because to me, well, I like to think about it like this. Phases kind of overlap each other. It's not like one set definition of phase, right? Because then to me, that's just not even lives are separate, because it's you, it's your soul. You carry things with you. So yes, you'll let some information go, you'll let some heavy things go, you'll take some information and tools with you onto the next phase. I also think that your perspective is only as broad as you allow it to be. Every time you judge a person, you're judging them from your bias, from your perspective, and or all of the perspectives that you have gathered along the way. You can only see someone as much as you see yourself. And I'm pointing to my head because that's what our brain does, right? It calculates a situation through other experiences. So you can only see a person as far as you've grown yourself. See, like my dad, right? I always saw him as this man with no fear. And just my dad was a wonderful dad. And I'm just gonna say this out loud, is that the standards that he has set for being a man, or the example that he set within my life, are top tier. I mean, it's like the standards that he has set is like beyond. I have never seen or heard of another person in my age range that has been able to set standards like he has. So what I'm trying to get at is that that's my perspective of him, but maybe he was much more than what my little mind, or my years on earth compared to his, allow me to calculate, to equate, to, things like that. And I also think that your perspective can hurt others. I don't want to sound like I, but I'm the only one here, and so I'm just talking about things that I've gathered along the way. And through my human daily life, I've noticed that your perspective has the ability to hurt others. Your perspective has also the ability to hurt you. And if we don't go through our file cabinet of imperfections that we have gathered along the way, then, and create behaviors backed behind them, that they can and have the ability to hurt others if we don't explore the imperfections that we have gathered along the way. Let's talk about how your story or oversharing can get you nowhere. So we kind of talked about it in the previous episode, right? I used to think, or go through life thinking about things like this. Like, if I share everything with people, or even my most simple thoughts, whether it be a joke or otherwise, people would like me more or understand me more, right? That's why you share your story, is to be understood, right? But what if you didn't? How would your life be now? So that's something that we also want to think about. That may not be the case. People may not understand you more. They're just gathering they're just gathering your thoughts and putting it into their computer brain in order to judge you, right? That may not give them a perspective to respect you, because what kind of perspective are they looking at you through, right? What kind of lens, filter are they calculating about you? So I think that, no, let's not talk about AI right now. Maybe we'll talk about that later. So doing your work and putting your thoughts through your actions and keeping your mouth shut may get you farther than oversharing, because now you have more time and more energy. So like, when you're oversharing, you're putting your energy where it actually doesn't belong. You're putting it into translating into someone else's filter. Translating, like, you don't have to be a translator. Did you go to school to be a translator? Like, get paid for it. Don't waste your energy on doing that. Because it doesn't have to be done. People will understand you through the perspective that they have grown enough to know. All right? Because either way, like I said, if people want to talk about you, they will. You can change or modify people's thoughts about you by appeasing or satisfying their perspective of you, but you will prove them more wrong by moving in your truth. And I talk about moving in your truth, being your truth, pulling your truth out all the time, being solid, being unwavering. So it's more about action, less verbal stuff. All right? People who are intimidating have something to hide. Like, let's keep that in mind. You don't always have to be like, oh, I'm open to talk to you and stuff like that. You still have to keep your boundaries up. So they don't want you to find it. So think about that. If somebody's intimidating you, they don't want you to find their weak points. But you already know that they have weak points or they have something to hide, right? Because they're intimidating. And this is a mechanism to keep people away. People who use being a victim as an excuse to be manipulative are weak, and they see you as a threat. And those are two, intimidating and being a victim, they all go together. And you can find both in one person. If you don't have to look hard either. So imagine this. If people are ganging up on you, understand that you are powerful, because how much energy has to be gathered from 5 other people in order for them to feel vindicated to be mean to you, right? They couldn't do it on their own, right? People don't want you around, fine. People stop talking when you enter the room, fine. Less drama for you. Remember now, you have to put in energy into your reality, into creating your reality. If people don't want your energy, but they want your energy, and that's one way that they think about getting your energy is by being mean to you, but they don't want to, include you in certain things, fine. Because I have my own things to do. I'm not going to get caught up in your drama. And I rather not. The only person you have control over is yourself. Don't allow others to dictate how your life should be or how you should act or manage yourself. These people doing this are telling a story about their pain and about their imperfections. They are highlighting places of insecurity that they are too afraid to go within themselves. And that's why they're picking at you. Because you're there shaking things up. You are changing the energy in the room. You are changing the temperature in the room. And other people don't like it. Well, grab a jacket or grab a bikini, because either way, it's going to get shaken up, right? That's why people believe in things, right? Because it brings them, or believes in their perspective. They hold on to their perspective like their life depended on it. Have you ever noticed that? Because it brings them to a space where they can grow or not grow, stay stuck, and it's their comfort level. It's their comfort level. People's perspective brings them comfort. Being comfortable isn't growing, by the way, if y'all don't know that yet. We continuously make excuses for poor behavior because it's easier to blurt things out rather than swallow it, digest it, and come back with a more mindful answer that pursues growth. Or, just don't say anything at all. It may not even be your business. Who knows? Making excuses for bad behavior isn't bettering yourself. It's doing the same thing and hurting others in the same way, just a different day. People give themselves permission to be rude, disrespectful, uncooperative because they haven't worked through an aspect of their life's trauma. They use their pain from that specific incident to make or create this world that makes people suffer, and which makes people suffer and them feel vindicated, rather than using that pain and experience to better this world. If you think about it, if there are more people in this world that create a perspective in their mind that includes a world of happiness, it creates a bubble around them that can meld or fuse with another happy person, and the next and the next and the next. And if you imagine in your mind that these bubbles of happiness can be cumulative and grow bigger and bigger, then there would be much more. And that can be a huge ball of happiness, right? That pushes out into the world. Same for people who are hurt, who are mean, disrespectful, vindictive, things like that. So, and that's all about balance too, right? Another person comes in and that has this same unique ball of happiness, and it's a nice and lovely bubble, right? So if you think about it, and we all fuse these balls of knowledge, energy, to make the world a better place, that would be nice. Well, that's all I have for today. I thank you very much for being here on the Stripped Down to Love podcast, and we all will see you soon. Jimani has run off to go greet his grandma, who has just came back home. So we will catch you all later. Thank you again for joining us here on the Stripped Down to Love podcast, where the essence of love comes from within. I am so happy that you are here. Take care.